All right, let's play this. This is really significant. This is a new video put out for the Fight for 15. And just, we talked about Tyson Foods and the meatpacking industry. Just the rate of exploitation, the absolute lethal abuse of the fast food industry and its workers, and the fact that this organizing has been going on for so many years for just the bare minimum of decency, $15 an hour to work an incredibly hard service job at McDonald's. But obviously it could, be Burger King or Wendy's or whatever, or KFC. This is just extraordinary. And of course, Wendy's, as this McDonald's, as this video points out, is quite willing and quite eager to identify itself with fighting racism as an example. This is a very important new video from the Fight for 15 struggle.
Hi, my name is Terrence Wise, and I'm a McDonald's worker from Kansas City, Missouri. McDonald's just released their second dividend payment of 2020, and in total, the company has spent $2 billion in giveaways to shareholders and Wall Street so far this year. That's $2 billion to line the pockets of wealthy shareholders that should be going to us, the frontline workers, in this pandemic. McDonald's is making a deliberate choice. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, McDonald's has failed to protect its workers, particularly workers of color, who are contracting and dying from COVID-19 in disproportionately high numbers. McDonald's chooses to spend billions on their investors. They choose to spend money lobbying the Trump administration against passing sick leave laws for all their workers. And they're paying for ads to say they support Black Lives Matter instead of fighting systemic racism their company perpetuates. Every day, McDonald's chooses to put profits ahead of its workers, us, who make the company run. Every day, McDonald's is making a choice to silence our voices.
We deserve 15 in a union and benefits like
please mute Mr. Wise's phone.
Thank you, and please.
Okay.
McDonald's tells us we're essential workers, but they treat us like dogs. When George Floyd was killed, they came out and said they were one of us. That is very insulting. McDonald's, you are the second largest employer in America, but your actions have spoken louder than words. We need 15 and we need a union, McDonald's. It's time to be a part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And anytime these companies come out and say that they're with you like that, know that like those stats about how most Americans only have like $400 or less in case of an emergency, all of these companies dine on that. Like that means labor force to them. And it's disgusting.
They literally dine on that. These companies are predicated on, again, not only are they not standing with Black Lives Matter, not standing with anything to do with protecting or respecting essential workers, and forget that word, protecting essential workers. You arguably, you cannot have specifically a second largest employer that treats its employees that way without a surplus labor population of which the police are there to terrorize. So not only are they not, in terms of the fact that they are union busters and they treat their own employees grotesquely, they are elemental to a whole set of pathologies. Very particularly as a company, they're elemental to, the creation of the suburbs, to all of the ecological crisis and alienation that gets tied up in that. And their whole model is predicated on the systems that he just identified there. And not even to mention the fact, of course, the overall global supply chain and, meat production that they're involved with is, has labor and human rights consequences across the globe, as well as being a major, major contributor to the climate crisis.
I would just add to further the conversations we were having earlier, making that point that they did in the videos that like, oh, this statement that you're making about Black Lives Matter is ridiculous when you're spending all of your time exploiting your employees. I think is really important. Not only is it important rhetorically, because it really, it's a very strong point, but it's also exactly what we're talking about, not allowing the movement to get co-opted, right? Because it makes it very clear that like, look, any company that has like a functioning PR department can put out the statement that they're supposed to put out now, right? But what really matters is actually making the serious material change in people's lives and the way that you interact with the world. And I think that we're going to have to continue to be making sure that that point is made, because there's a lot of people that really understand that if they hit a couple keywords, buzzwords, and hashtags, that there's a certain segment of the population will be like, oh well, great, now they're a progressive company. Meanwhile, they're just exploiting. They're putting a bow on the exploitation that they're practicing. So I think this is a phenomenal ad, and I think this is like, it's ridiculous too, by the way, that we're still having the fight with McDonald's on this question after so many years and so much exposure about how nasty of a company they are to their employees.
And on like the Adolph Reed thread, there are ways in which, McDonald's, in terms of some of the executive leadership team and advertising companies and so on, like have done in that neoliberal sense pretty well. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, right? That's, sure. But that again reveals, the three big choices that Adolph Reed outlines. Do you want brutal inequities in capitalism with white supremacy, or do you think it's totally fine to have absolutely brutal, grotesque inequities in capitalism as long as the top 1% of the predator class is proportionally represented across various lines of diversity? Or do you say we need actual democracy and public provision for all, period, full stop? And, that's what that struggle is about. And we support it in any way we can, any way, shape, or form. I think that was a very, very effective video. And I'd really urge all of you who are, using social media to really, definitely amplify content like that as much as possible. And thank you to the great Harvey K for sharing that with me to begin with. I know he was pushing that very strongly because he cares very deeply about, the labor movement.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.